Okay. Hello. Today, I wanted to discuss this, I want to say juxtaposition. The differences between a person who is renting a car and then a person who is running this business with their own car, right? Obviously, without any iota of doubt, if you own the car, you would definitely see the benefits. You will reap every single benefit in the business. Okay? I don't even think there's a downside to owning the cars compared to a person who is either renting the car or the person who is on hire purchase. Now, let me talk more on that. People who don't own their cars, there are two things. All right, it's either they are renting it, and in this rent, some of the conditions involved is every week they have to relinquish or deliver rather some amount to the person who had given them the car, but this is done every week. And then there are people who do hire purchases. The hire purchases, they take the car, sometimes new, sometimes fairly used, sometimes old, but they have an agreement to pay the owner of the car a certain amount, sometimes weekly, but most times I've noticed it's monthly, not weekly. All right, this is where the whole thing gets messed up. When it comes to repairs, from the information I've gathered, if the damage in the car is not beyond 10,000 naira, you get to handle the cost. You that is renting the car or you that is on hire purchase with that car get to rent it. And then if it's above, they get to do it. But then again, it being above, how do I explain this? Sometimes you go to them for them to fix something, for them to do something for you, right? And then you end up realizing that they would waste and burn all of your time and will not even come through for you as they're supposed to. Or they'll do a very shitty work and still expect you to go back out there, deliver some money to them, as usual. I even hear there's a late payment fee if you don't deliver when you're supposed to deliver at the end of every week or at the beginning of every week, whatever the agreement is. There's a late fee payment wherein you have to add something for them. I honestly want to discuss just how much of a merit that whole thing is, whether it's actually worth it to be renting a car and doing this business. On the one hand, I think it's not bad if the remittance amount is not crazy. Here's what I mean. Somebody once asked me, a customer actually asked me, if I were to give out my car, how much would I expect the drivers to give me on a weekly basis? I said I know people deliver around 25,000 every week. This was not recent, by the way. This was before the subsidy and everything. So, but the person now asked me, but what do you think is a human face to this whole thing, right? How much do you think a person should deliver? I said 20 is really okay. Okay, like 20 seems like a very fair amount for a person to deliver. I hear on a very, or rather from a very reliable source, that the amount that some people actually deliver is up to 40,000 every week. Some people go as high as 45,000 every week. Explain this to me, for the love of God, explain this to me. How does a person deliver 40,000 every week and is able to continue that stride every other week? If I was doing it on hire purchase, knowing that at some point this payment would be over and I would be out of this liability of paying every week, I think it would be more of a motivation, right, to deliver quickly and then own the vehicle. But when I'm renting and then you're telling me to pay you up to 40,000 a week, or maybe close to 40,000 a week, That's an absolute rip-off. Absolute rip-off. Because for the love of God, how much do I make in a week? The business really is something that is very, very, not time consuming, but energy consuming. Driving over and over and over, my God, it takes a lot of energy from you. It takes a lot from you. Anybody who is in the business can testify to this. So by the time you've worked so hard, you realize that a huge chunk of what you've been able to pull in for that week is going into another person's pocket because they had given you the car to use. You would find that it's unfair. Please, if you're one of those people who rent out cars, who give out cars, here's my advice to you. Try and have a human face to it. I know you want to make profit, and that's well within your right to do that. Okay? But try and have a human face to it. Understand that a very happy employee is going to give you the best out of the whole business. Imagine if you were taking 20,000 or 25,000, right? Or better yet, take whatever it is that seems like a day's work from the person you're giving the vehicle to. Something that they can raise within one day, however it goes, whether the day was good or bad or whatever. But within one day, they have the capacity, knowing their work pattern and timing. If they're able to raise such and such amount of money within one day, let that be your own. And then give them the rest of the week to either rest or work for themselves. I think it's fair. And then, ultimately, your car will not be on the road every other day. One thing people don't really understand is that the more you drive, the more you have to repair your car. Okay, even if it's a freshly bought car, even if it's really old, even if it's a car, anything it is, the more your car is being used, the more the wears and the tears will happen. If you're renting out and the person only gets to work for you one day, and then you give them the rest of the week, they would probably, most likely, work for themselves maybe 2-3 days tops. And those 2-3 days, not like 12 hours back to back. All right, they may go for like half day today, quarter day tomorrow, full day next tomorrow. You understand? Okay, in such a way that it doesn't weigh on your vehicle. If you've ever visited one of these companies where people rent cars or go to get cars on rent, you will see that most of the cars have really been through a lot. Do you understand? Like a lot. You will know that the person who has been using it has overused it to a point where the car is just a mess. Even you that went to submit your car to this company for them to give to a driver to use and get your money back, you would realize that maybe it's not even worth it. If you had kept your car would have served or would have continued to be in good shape for the longest period. I hear there's just one company, I don't even know their name, but somewhere around Games Village anyway. It's really big on this car rental thing. Now, these people, they take cars from owners and then they deliver 20,000 to the owner and then tell the driver to deliver 40,000 to them, sometimes 40-something thousand depending on the car, right? And then they only give 20,000 back to the owner. You can imagine. So if I were the owner, I think I would instead take that car and give it directly to the person that I know and I can account for, right? There are some of the things you could do if you're an owner and then you want to give out your car on rentage. There's one, this fellow who told me this is what he does, although he's giving his own off on hire purchase, but this is what he does, right? First of all, you who is about to take the car, you'll have to bring somebody, like a family member, who is employed with the government, all right, who's a civil servant, as a guarantor for you. He has to come and sign as a guarantor for you. Okay? I think it has to be 2 guarantors, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. So they have to sign as guarantors, and then some other documents like identification and things like that would be submitted. And then, of course, a tracker in the car, right? So that you can monitor their every move. Because at one time, he also told me that he had one of the drivers he had given the car who didn't know that there was a tracker in there. He traveled out of Abuja to another city, and then when they asked him, he said it was on the airport road, man. He's at work. When he came back, of course, he collected the car and told him there was a tracker. So I saw you had left the city with the car, and that was absolutely wrong. Okay, so that's something you could do instead of going through these agencies and channels. Give it directly to a person you know, a person you can talk to, a person that can give you a direct account of how things are going. All right, because these other people, they just make the drivers overuse your car and still not give you value for your input. Now, for people who are renting the cars from some of these agencies that take ridiculous amount from you, I don't think I would advise you to continue. It's stupid, it's pointless. You label and you label. I know a person lives very close to me. My neighbor even. He's always working late. He's coming back late, early in the morning before you know he's out. Because he has to deliver 40,000. Forgot. Okay, you know, I don't think it's I don't think it's nice to talk about my neighbor on a public space. But the point I'm trying to make is that if you could find a job where you get say 30,000 or 40,000, I think it's much better. Because let me give you a breakdown. For instance, if in a week you're earning somewhere around 70,000 in profit after the work and all that, and then you take a huge chunk of that, which is like let's say 40,000 now, and give it to these guys, and you're left with 30,000. It's not just 30,000 you're left with, but then 30,000 plus any possible repairs that may arise with the vehicle, and that's where it's messed up. Okay, because you never know these things. You never know what could come up. You never know what could happen, but you're really losing. In the end of the day, you're really losing. I would instead encourage you to try and obtain a vehicle. Try and go for hire purchasing if you must do this business, right? Try and buy a car from, another person. Raise some kind of money. If you cannot buy direct Belgium, which has become very expensive now, if you can't do that, then go for fairly used, yes, but please be very careful. Sometimes I used to advise people who want to buy fairly used, just buy the car with the intent of changing the engine, the entire engine. Like, let that be at the forefront of your mind, so you don't get disappointed when the engine fails or things like that. Because an engine that's already been used and used and used, there's only so much they can continue to do, especially if the last person didn't use it well. All right. So, but if you're able to raise some kind of money, apart from Corolla, Corolla now has gone up to like 4 point something million just to get one as a direct Belgium one. You can look into cars like Peugeot, and you can look into cars like Hyundai. You can look into cars like Honda. You can look into cars like Nissan, right? These are very okay cars. You understand, like the Corolla standard. Granted, most of them are not as rugged as the Corolla or the Matrix and the Vibe. They are not as rugged as those cars, but they would still give you a very, very good result So in essence, just trying to say, I would definitely recommend you owning the car than renting. Okay, so if you're on hire purchase, you are at least on the right path going towards trying to own the car. And if you're just renting, doesn't seem, it just seems like a survival move for me, right? To survive today and tomorrow and the next and all that. So, but if you're able to get started on something like hire purchase or anything towards the ownership aspect, is a very good one. Okay, so that's what I have for you today. Bye bye.